Fired up.
Fired up.
Fired up.
Guys, we're live. Hey, episode 31, another episode of The Good Life. Excited to be here. Welcome everybody that's joining us. Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram. We are here. Ready to give you guys some more great conversations, thoughtful conversations around health, wealth, mindset, all the things that we're dealing with to help us get to that life that we're designing. I saw Kobi dancing, and it always throws me off a bit. Dancing throws my words off. I'm looking at him dancing, trying to think about.
You mesmerized?
Yeah, I'm mesmerized by his body. Pause. No,
No need to pause, but that was funny.
No need to pause. Yeah, because you've been showing yourself all on social with your 18 pack.
Come on, dog.
Eating fruit and just talking about the ills of the world. No, I'm joking.
I ain't gonna lie, I will be doing that more often, though. I will be doing that more often.
We need it. We need it.
Right.
We need it.
I don't know why I always shy away from that.
I don't know either.
I do know why. Because my general message is not about physique. It's not about physique, okay? Because when I put stuff like that out there, people immediately go to, oh, he's got good genetics. They don't talk about the hours I put in. They don't talk about the things I turned down. They don't talk about the consistency for most, if not for like 15 plus years minimum, right? They don't talk about all that. They talk about the genetics because they want to get out of it quick. So I stopped showing my physique. I stopped letting that lead. And I wanted my information to lead. I wanted people to test me out, like test what I'm saying out, right? And try it. Try it for yourself, because you don't have to have the same genetics I do to get the results that you want. You don't have to. It's not a mandatory piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. So that's why I stopped.
Big facts. What a great segue, because tonight's topic is communication and unity. And what I really like about how this whole thing just unraveled is you want your content to speak for itself. You don't want somebody to get distracted by just another six-pack on social media. It's a lot more than that. It's way more than that. It's not about hitting the gyms and doing the crunches and on hitting the big weights and everything. It's about how can you holistically approach this through stuff that you've experienced. So just for everybody catching up, we came up with the topic on the pregame today. Shout out to Johnny Tartarian Warrior for pulling this up. We had a lot of good engagement on the pregame. If you guys want to be a part of what we talk about on here and learn about that and pick our brains and hear us chew on it and go back and forth, show up to the pregame. You can really steer the ship on that. So communication and unity. This came up because we were talking about how presenting your ideas, especially if you have some type of cause that you want to stand behind, that you want to make a change in the world, communication is key. If you want to bring people together, you can't go around just verbally and physically punching people in the face and expect them to listen and respect your ideas. You have to come to the table from a place of openness and understanding in order to create a debate. You start by creating conflict, you're going to get conflict in return. Who wants to kick it off tonight?
Listen, I'll kick it off. When you say communication and unity, I go to two things. First and foremost, I go to the story of the Tower of Babel, right? And for those of you who are not aware, the story of the Tower of Babel explains the origin of the multiple languages of the world, right? So essentially it says, I believe, and feel free to check me, correct me, I don't, do whatever. God was concerned about humans building the tower, essentially to get up into the heavens, one, and two, to also escape the second flood, right? So he then it's like, oh, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Bam! Now you can't understand each other. You speak in different languages, right? So it's very difficult then to continue to build such an extraordinary project when you can't understand the person next to you. So a few things I take from that, and why my brain goes to that story, because of communication. First and foremost, It's not about the languages themselves, but it's the fact that we break communication from each other. Because I actually believe that our first language wasn't a vibrational, vocal cord, vibrational based language. I believe it was telepathy. I believe that we are all so connected. And how are we all so connected? We're all so connected because we're all particles of light, right? We're all made of biophotons, light energy, right? And we lost that as we literally kill the biophotons out of our foods and also start to consuming so many things that did not have biophotons in them. So we lost that sixth sense connection to each other, to our environment, to other living things. And that connection was broken. So I see a lot of parallels between the two stories. And when we go to communication, well, hey, there's a whole lot of disconnect. And I feel like we're continuously moving in the direction of more disconnect, right? Not less. We're moving in the direction of more disconnect. So those are the two stories I kind of, the two things my mind goes to immediately when I think of communication and unity. And I take a lot from that, but I want you guys to kind of comment on that before we keep going.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you heard of it? What do you think? What do you pull from that?
honestly, I've never kind of put those two things together. I'm familiar with this, with the Tower of Babel story, um, but not even kind of putting it together, thinking about the unity communication side of things. I've always just really dove into, and I don't want to say always, but just probably over the past, I don't know, 5, 6 years or so, really dove into how important communicating with another human being is, just how important that is in general, right? Just whether we're looking at doing a project of building a tower to the heavens, or right, we're talking about working with our coworker, or we're talking about persuading the person that you know is caught in the matrix, or whatever it is. Communication is that thing that we actually have to continue to work on in order to get our message across, to get the presentation to them. And I think we don't take enough time to really dive into our language, to how we're communicating, to what type of communicator we are. And I think that'll go a long way. So I know that didn't dive into those two stories, but specifically, like, I think about like really just this communication side being really, really heavy. So
Yeah, to piggyback off of that, Chris, I think it is overlooked. Having so I look back to my personal and professional experiences, and in just about every single conflict between people, communication is often the problem. Like at the end of the day, I've yet to meet an evil person on this planet. I've yet to meet somebody that is just, just completely trying to just ruin everything for everybody. At the end of the day, there usually is some type of misunderstanding that's happening. And how do you get through misunderstanding? Perseverance, communication, getting specific, like actually connecting with the other individual. Now, could be to kind of address your question. I'm not particularly familiar with the stories, but that does strike me as familiar from like some old school Bible study. But I think what I really want to focus on when it comes to that communication piece that you brought up, Chris, is like something that could be alluded to earlier. Like communication is not just verbal. You don't just It's not just about the words that you use. So for anybody out here who's kind of listening to this, let's start at like a romantic level. The communication between you and your partner is so much more than verbal. We even began to kind of get into in the pregame how sometimes you just get really close with somebody. Other times it could be a complete stranger. You just look at them and you know what's up. Like, that moment where you're like, this is memed about like forever on the internet, where something happens and you look at your friend and you both are thinking the same thing. Like, what the hell is this? Like, and that is not a verbal communication. Also, body language. We talked a little bit about presentation earlier. What's your body language like? What's your tone of voice? Are you coming at them with a lot of rage, a lot of anger, a lot of passion, or are you going to be a lot more like chill and calm in your demeanor and offer them up an encouraging space for them to potentially open up? So communication is everything. And when it comes to unity and the story of Babel and work, platonic, romantic, parent to child, like really, really focusing on the details and not just your word choice is so key.
I can't agree more on the importance of communication, right? Um, I don't want to re-stare the conversation, but I do a little bit because I think I almost don't want to have the same conversation I've had with others, kind of like surface level. Like, what is good communication? What does that look like? What are the da, 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 da? I think that's all awesome. But where, with the connecting back to the work I do, I think verbal communication is extremely imperfect, right? And that's usually what we go to, right? So let's go to relationship, as you mentioned, romantic, for example, right? As men, a lot of times we get caught in this bind of like, well, you don't talk enough, you don't express yourself, you don't want to have conversation, right? So we get pigeonholed into this box of like, oh, we just we don't open our mouth and communicate what's in us, right? But I think that's because verbal communication is imperfect, and we've got to go back to what I believe was our first form of communication, which is communicating through energy, right? And I'm not saying you read somebody's mind, but like, guess what's more powerful than the point of me saying these words is for you to get a particular feeling in your body, right? So if I can get to that and cut out the words, where we can cut to the chase, we can get there. Like, if I can, sometimes there's just, I'm teaching something, for example, or showing a particular skill, if I can just get in your body and get you to feel it, right? But we've elevated the verbal to a much higher level than we elevated the feeling, the gut feeling. I could talk about how we've done that. And I think a great piece of that is our food and what we consume, because we hardly consume anything with biophotons, which is light energy, which is what connects all of us. We don't consume any of that, right? So we slowly over time lose this connection with each other, where you can literally feel me. I don't need to open my mouth and tell you, hey, I'm having a hard day. Hey, this is what's going on. And you don't need to spend years and decades with me to understand that, if your energy is sharp and our energy is sharp. You understand what I'm saying? So I almost kind of want to relate it back, man. It's like when we talk about what we eat, what we and what we consume, this is a whole nother part of it that nobody ever touches, right? Is that we lose our connection with each other. Ah, yes, sir. Yeah, that's it. Right? You talking to me right now, because our connection to the source is severed. Yes, our connection to the source is severed, and I believe that we essentially like kind of water ourselves and keep ourselves going by consuming biophotons, but then we moved away from that as well. So it's like, whoa, now we have to rely and we elevate verbal communication, right? Look at our society, for example. The people that can talk slick, and the people that can like they're the ones that succeed, right? They can, oh, he's a sharp talker, he's a good salesman, but nobody respects those individuals. Right? Nobody actually respects those individuals, right? And but we've elevated or the idea, not the actual reality really usually, but the idea of what a lawyer is, right? Can come up and just like talk you through things, and like, oh, he's a great talker. All right. But see, let me go back to the Bible again, right? That tongue, right? What does that remind you of when I do, right? Should remind you of a snake, right? A snake. What is a snake associated with, right? The power of the tongue, right? I think we can't overlook these things. Now I'm dealing with it on. I'm like touching it barely. Okay, I'm touching it barely. But I want you guys. You're. I know y'all are feeling what I'm saying. What I'm trying to put out here. You're right. You're feeling what I'm trying to put out here. I think part of us improving our communication is us going back to our source. It's us going back to increasing our level of biphoton, our level of communication, and our level of connection with each other. Because part of that is me seeing something happening across the world to an individual that I have nothing to do with whatsoever, but I can feel their pain. I am there with them. That's what's missing on this earth. That connection.
Yeah, man, that's super powerful. Just so right, like if we could just take a moment and breathe on that and pause on that, because that's super powerful to understand that like the light, the biophotons, the light that you get just from consumption, whether it's food consumption, light consumption, right? Just being out, whatever you're taking in, right? That consumption connects us to our source. And if everyone is connected to this to source, right, and they can understand that, it allows us to be connected. And when you hear people say, and I don't know if you guys have heard this before, right? Like, vibration, like vibrating on the same energy level. Like you walk into somewhere and you feel like, man, it's vibrating, like you're at my energy level, like you feel it. That's the same thing. And again, a lot of times you start to see these things and hear these types of things around people that are either seeking the light or are connected to it. They have this information where they can understand energy and connection and right how our bodies communicate with source and how our minds communicate. Like I think if people really dive into this part, it could open up so much for people. Right. So
1,000.
I just wanted to take a second to kind of touch on that because I don't want us to overlook that part of it. And that's why it could be specifically you go down into that health part, into that consumption part to really say all of these things are connected, right? All of these things are connected and you have to understand how these things are connected so that if you want to make a shift, you know exactly what you need to go back to do or what you need more of in your life.
That part. That part. If you want to make a shift, that part, right? Because I actually think we're almost over relying on words. I really do. I think we're over relying on the vibrational sound form of communication, right? And we don't feel people anymore. We don't feel people anymore, right? My I'll be the first. Okay, when I say these things, I'm usually talking to myself first. I want to always say that I'm usually talking to myself first, um, and I think that's so freaking critical, right? So with that understood, then what is actually then maybe if you guys want to go into the vibrational sound type of communication, let us do that. But I think without that's to me is a derivative. It's secondary
No,
to
I'm
this
actually
side.
really glad you redirected this because I could totally go into the public speaking piece, but we don't need to do that right now. Like you said, that conversation's been had. We're having a different one. We're having a more unique one. I'd like to piggyback on what both of you guys are saying. The vibration, the vibe. I think one of my favorite freaking parts of the current younger generations is how the focus is on the vibe. I was not
Mm,
raised by this. I was raised by individuals born in 1948 that did not think about things in this way. They thought about things verbally, and there was a lot of clashing. And interestingly enough, when there's two different types of vibes going on and words are being exchanged, but the vibes are different, you're not getting the satisfaction and fulfillment from the conversation that you're hoping to get because you're not in touch with how you're actually vibrating. Now, to a lot of y'all that maybe come from the construction background, y'all might look at me like I got like three heads right now. But every single time that someone has thought that I've been good with people, I used to have a nickname of being slick. Like I was slick, kind of like that thing you mentioned earlier. But the reality was, it was not the word choice that I had. It was the vibration that I'm putting out. Not some in part because of the actual sound vibration, because I'm very cognizant of how that affects people, but also just like my way of being. It is quite clear by how I be how pure my intent is when trying to have a conversation. That is how you communicate and actually reach out and touch somebody and connect with them. So I really like how this generation like talks about vibes so much, because it is key. We really do focus on this. You want to, there's like this whole new shift where in the past it seemed like the best way to connect with somebody romantically or platonically was through conversation. And there's a lot of power behind that, don't get me wrong. But it seems like now we actually want to be able to sit in silence with another person. Now, why is that? It's because we're all of a sudden realizing like, man, I want to be able to sit there and just vibe. I just want to be myself and chill. And I want to know when something's up with you. Like you were getting at earlier, like, you know, I just, it's very easy. It's very fluid when I'm able to be like, huh, something seems off. What's up, bro? Or what's up, lady? What's going on with you? So those types of things, I really like how that shifted. I think it's very interesting how that shifted because we were not educated on that. So how on earth could that have all of a sudden jumped in when we frequently on this channel talk about a lot of like programming and education and just, you know, for lack of a better word, BS that seems to get drowned into us as kids? How did that pop up? My theory, the internet. We have been so exposed to so many different types of people. Like you said, all the way around the world, you see a video and you're like, oh my God, I can feel the pain in this scene of what they're going through, but they've never said a word to me in their life. They're not even speaking in this clip. So interestingly enough, one of the benefits of the internet, in my opinion, is we've been exposed to so many different types of vibes. It's like, oh, wow, it's not just about the verbal. And a lot of this I'm kind of figuring out and verbalizing for the first time because of this conversation. So shout out to how we all kind of learn from each other on this shit.
1,000.
Yeah.
1,000. And if I may vibe off of that real quick,
Don't
do it to him. Don't do it to him. All right. I have a theory I want to put out real quick. I haven't really done too much research on this, but I want to put this theory out, see what you guys think, man. I think one of the reasons why things like drugs, like alcohol, and let's stick with alcohol for this particular conversation right here so we can be on the same level, so we can be on the same level. God, man. And is that I believe that it drops our vibration to the same level, right? So it's not the fact that it drops, it's the fact that we get to the same level. Right. So now it's like you're in a room, everybody's drinking, or you perceive everybody's drinking. So you perceive it's like the same vibe. Regardless of how you came in through the partaking of the alcohol, right? You get to the same level, right? You get to the same vibrational level. That vibrational level happens to be a low one when it comes to alcohol, right? If you've ever tried any other type of drugs or psychedelics or any of that stuff, that vibration level could be different wherever that vibration level is. I'm not out here proposing, that you go out and try drugs. I'm just saying that my theory is that is what makes these things a social thing, right? That's what puts us all on the same level so we can all create the same vibe. You feel me? But it just unfortunately though, with alcohol, what happens is that vibration is low, is a low vibration, and there's other offshoots or consequences to it. But we keep coming back to it, right? We keep coming back to it because it's predictable. We know it's going to get us all to the same level. We know it's going to get us to the same place. And you could make the same thing with other things. But I think that's what really is. It's like all of a sudden the glue. That puts everyone in the same. What do you guys think of that theory?
I think it's spot on as perhaps the resident expert.
I was going to say, I think Stu can comment on that the best out of all of us, right?
Yeah. So, after I really could not agree more because, I have dabbled with a variety of different substances. I do like trial and error. I do like seeing life through different lenses. And using it with intent, which I cannot emphasize enough for those out there using it. Are you using it to escape, or you have an intent behind it that is productive? But when it comes to alcohol versus other substances, I absolutely agree. There's a reason why you see alcohol served in places where a lot of really like sexual behavior is much more so accepted, condoned, and It gets everybody on that level. In my opinion, it kind of makes everybody a little bit more primal. I think it's why we see so much more anger and violence and just lashing out, as well as sadness and emotion. Like just so many of the things that you have in place to navigate and control yourself and be the best person that you want to be start failing real quick. It takes, in my opinion, it takes a very strong character to be under the influence of alcohol and actually be able to compose yourself. So, and why is that? And I think you're spot on it, because I really do think it kind of lowers the bar as far as like how we're going to communicate with one another. So much so that we're almost looking at each other from purely like, hey, what can I gain from you? What can you gain from me? Like, what can we like whatever together? It's I think it's spot on.
Let me real quick piggyback off of that, Stu, because I want to also add this component or whatever, however you take it. Is I'm not even saying it's just negative. I'm not even speaking to the negative aspect of it. I think because you could also do the flip where alcohol is is a hype, like is up, like it's like it appears right. It appears to be up and hype and bringing people together. What I'm really speaking to is that it regardless of what that level may be or what the vibrational frequency may be, the key part is that we are on the same page, right? So it could be something else, right? Maybe we find something else that it happens to be, right, that puts us on the same page, and it doesn't matter where that page necessarily is. Now obviously when it does matter is when is the consequences of what actually occurs, right? Is like what you do, and a lot of what you were just speaking to, like what you actually do, the actions you take and the results and all that stuff. Yeah, but the key part there is that it puts us on the same page so that we can connect as humans, right? We can be with each other, right? And that's, I think that's key, rather than me speaking to like, oh, it can lead to a lot of bad destructive things, but speaking to, well, okay, what if we can get to that level of vibration on the same thing another way?
Mm.
Maybe we can get there through mutual meditation. Maybe we can get there through, I don't know. These are the things I think there's actually more outlandish things, like maybe we just breathe together,
Absolutely.
right? Or something else that gets us on the same page. But the key part is that we're on the same page and vibing. We're vibing.
That's right. The vibe. I think that was a huge word, Stu, right? Like you hear the young people these days.
Oh, I got one more. Yo, I got one more to throw you guys out there.
Go.
What else? What else might do that? Music.
Amen.
Right? So think about reggae music, right? What makes reggae music reggae music? It's a particular feeling, it's a particular vibration, it's a particular tempo, it's a particular feel. So when you put that on, everybody in the room automatically we're vibing. Yeah, y'all see that? I'm trying to get at something here. Today, I'm trying to get something out today, guys. I'm trying to get something out today about that. We're vibing. I'm trying to. What else does that? You know what I'm saying? That's so dope. Like it just puts us automatically right there. We're on the same frequency.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. It's why people get connected in these areas, right? Like why you get around like-minded people or people that like have similar interests, because that's what it does. It puts you on the same level, right? Without even having to verbally communicate, like you guys said, right? Like these are the things that we're becoming more aware of. And why is this important, by the way, to fill everybody in that's been watching or just jumped in, right? Like we're talking communication and unity and how this works in ourselves. Is it just about verbal communication? What Kobi and Stu and I are talking about is it's really not just about the verbal communication part that actually unites us as people, that actually allows us to vibe on the same level or vibrate or have a similar energy. It's actually other things of consumption. And these things are important in building community and getting around people and fellowshipping and having great relationships. Because again, as we talk about all these things on the Good Life, about, having great relationships as a way to get to, or as a component of designing the life that you want. Most people that want to be successful or dream of success to whatever degree that is for them, that part of that component will be around family, kids, spouse, right, business partners, whoever that is, and understanding how to keep us together, right, understanding how we all resonate with one another, that words are not the only thing that connects us. If we're more mindful of these other things that connect us, we have a better opportunity of, right, creating the community that we want, building better relationships, building healthier relationships. And these are the things that we're talking about. And we've touched on a few different things, but I think there's a lot more of these areas that we can touch on, where it's not just about the verbal communication, right, or the vibration from that. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that.
I want to toss out a question for you guys, man. I want to say like this idea just came down to me. I think we were talking about vibrations, right? As it pertains to music, frequency. Obviously, we know light generates the same thing. They're all like kind of very, without going too far down that science path. But the thought that came to mind is like, well, we talk about us all being on the same page with alcohol, all being on the same page with music, maybe even light. I feel like light does the same thing, right? If we're in a particular room, there's a reason why it's a red light district, right? It's like it elicits the same level of vibration for some. Well, how does one maybe generate their own vibe, right? Maybe you don't want to be on one's particular vibe. Maybe you want to be a leader, right? Whether it's in the boardroom, whether it's at a party, whether it's in the family, whether it's whatever it's in a business situation. How do you bring your own vibe, right? And instead of syncing to everybody else's, you bring everybody to your vibe.
Love that question. I'm gonna jump in. All right, so
let me pause here for 25 minutes. Go ahead.
so here's the thing. I have spent a lot of time being in my vibe when a lot of people around me are not. And I'm not going to try and, full disclosure, I have definitely, all right, let me speak super candidly real quick. So I've definitely had my vibration in areas where other people are casting a lot of what appears to be competition, negativity, teasing, putting people down around each other, and this whole competitive type nature. And really, to answer your question, like, how do you generate your own vibe? How do you try and bring people to something else? So many different things come to mind. I'm going to go ahead and start with getting to know yourself. I think that is the most key part. Who do you want to be? What is your vibe that you want to maintain? How do you bring about through your own creation? I know a lot of people that do this through painting. They will literally sit down and paint and create with their art, and they will figure out like, hey, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is the creation I'm putting out there. And as they're putting out this creation on a canvas, they're actually beginning to feel the way they want to feel. And when they take that feeling, they walk out of that studio. And while I'm saying studio, musicians do this all of the time. It's why I love music. It's why I create music, because you can literally put your vibe out there for the world to sample. It's like, hey, this is me. This is how I'm feeling. Like, does anybody else feel this way? Bam, Drake blows up because he taps into it, or has a ghostwriter do it for him. Who knows? But yeah. But long story short, like I think alone time is the most beautiful place where you can find yourself. It is so easy to get stuck on Netflix and just follow the vibe that someone else has created, where they're talking about murder and gore and rape and terrible things. And all of a sudden you're walking away from this show like, wow, that was so fascinating. I'm so addicted to this. You're addicted to that vibe, and you're actually bringing that out to your living room, to your community, to your family, to your kids, because all of a sudden this vibe that somebody created as like their dark, twisted fantasy is now all of a sudden in your head. So you've allowed somebody else to dictate your vibe for that 45-minute show or whatever. So alone time, find your own, go create something. I think breath work is such an excellent way to do this. Finding the different types of music, but be careful. A lot of times we are attracted to music that matches our vibe, but it could be a really, really sad song. And sometimes we need that in the moment. But if that's all you're listening to, or if you're only listening to super angry metal, like just be aware that you're building a habit of resonating at that frequency of that anger. Is that anger that you're going to expel? Is it anger you're going to hold on to? Like, so for me to answer that, man, alone time, find yourself, create, or else someone else is going to create a vibe for you.
Thank you. Big facts. Big facts. Chris, did you have something you want
I
to put
mean,
out?
that was gonna be what I was gonna piggyback on that, because it's self-awareness. It's spending time with yourself. And often, just, I'm not gonna repeat what you said, Stu, because I 1,000% agree. But oftentimes we're not understanding that we're picking up other vibes, other vibrations, other energy consistently throughout the day. So we don't actually know what our vibe is or what our level is, because you're constantly picking it up from so many other places, that you're getting on that level, and then you're getting on this level, then you're getting around this, then you're seeing this, and all these things are happening. But how do we create our own? Spend time with yourself. Can you even differentiate what your own level is that you want to be at, your vibe, what you are, or are you picking that up from somewhere? Are you sure? And if we don't take the time to spend with ourselves to know these types of things, we can't ever expect to get on our own level, to get on our own vibe. But this is why so many successful people, and again, I use the word success in any area that you think about, right? Like, they kind of do their thing. You hear them say that term a bunch, right? Like, do my thing, right? Like, the best relationships, they don't have like the ordinary rules to it. They have rules that work for them, right? Because they're on their own vibe, right? They're on their own vibration. This is their own, like, they understand that. Same thing in business, same thing in all these other areas. But it really comes down to self, and we don't spend enough time with self. So that's where it starts. I think I agree 1,000%.
That's beautiful, and I agree with both of you guys. To maybe answer my own question a little bit too, man. I want to connect a few things that I always talk about, right? And I want you guys to imagine and go on this visual journey with me, okay? All right. So, first and foremost, we're all everything is vibration, is what we've just all said. Everything is vibration, because what you break down pretty much everything into light and sound waves. If you draw light and sound waves, what does it look like? Very similar, right? Wavelengths. Okay. And I think we are essentially antennas in a lot of ways. We're both antennas and we're pitchforks. Like, we can generate, and we're also collecting, and all the time, all the time. So all the time, we just identified sound, what we listen to, right? We identified light, what we see, right? We identified sound, what we speak, right? We identify these are what, and these are all the ways of, and then that goes even more, because you can consume through taste certain energies and waves as well. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely, absolutely.
You what do they tell you? Eat the colors of the rainbow.
Right.
Okay, so I want you guys to connect this with me, right? So then, how do you then generate? How do you be the generator of your own? Well, it's consumption. It's consumption. It's what you consume. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you speak? What do you touch? What do you eat? Right? It's consumption, right? So, in terms of celebrities and people and things being their own generators, well, what do they then do? They control what they consume, whether it's through an athlete controlling, the entire environment, so it's set up for them to perform the best, or a musician setting up an entire environment so that it helps them produce their type of music. And it might be that environment is full of weed smoke, or that environment is in church, or that environment is in some dark dungeon doing some things. Why do we think these people can be so weird? And I say weird in quotes because that's my judgment of some of the things that goes down, but that helps them do what? Generate the level of, or generate the vibration that they want to generate. If we want to go into music, Think about Charles Manson's generation and his vibration that he generates is different than Kanye's, is different than Jay-Z's, is different because of what they consume and put out. So I would answer that question to be like, how do you do that? You check your consumption
Mm.
across all of these boards, all of these boards. And so once again, it appears that it comes down to consumption and what you do with your time.
The common thread.
Common thread on the show. And again, for everyone listening, and if you followed us for any amount of weeks, right? We're going on this 31 weeks of doing this. If you followed us, like, you can see that throughout a lot of our episodes, this is a common theme. What are you consuming? And if you say you want to get to the life that you want, are you willing to change the things that you're consuming? That's it, right? Like, it's not, I think you might have said this at the pregame, right? Like, everybody wants like the magic pill, like the one thing, right? But they don't understand it's all of the things. It's all of the things. It's not just the one thing and then your problem's good. It's all of the things. And a lot of all of the things come down to consumption. What are you putting in your body? What are you putting in your mind? What are you speaking out? What are your environments like? Do you stop and analyze these things, right, on a daily basis? Do you understand how powerful all these external forces happen to be and how that actually affects your life, getting to the life you want? Like, that's why this is a common theme, ladies and gentlemen, for the people that are listening, because we can't make it any simpler, right? Like, and the issue is we can't do the work for you. We can just give you the information, and then you have to go do the work. You have to literally wake up tomorrow or while you're listening to this tonight and say, like, what do I consume from 9 p.m. to midnight? What do I consume in all areas? What are you putting in your mind? What are you putting in your mouth? Like, all that stuff. And that, from there, again, back to kind of what Stu and I were saying, from there, sitting with yourself to really think about these things, that's how you can get on your own level. That's how you can get on your own vibe. That's how you can design your life. Seems right. Again, we don't want to be repetitive all the time, but some of the stuff is simple, right? Like, some of the stuff is kind of black and white. It's just, why aren't we doing it? So,
amen. And you're hitting at another common theme that we have here: ownership. You're asking everybody to sit there and reflect on how all the different pieces of their life may be affecting them, and not necessarily go after that magic bullet, silver bullet, magic pill. We got a million names for this stuff. I like how you went and broke it down. It's what are you eating? What are you drinking? What are you listening to? What are you watching? What's your environment? And your environment includes, honestly, all of those things already, but also, who are the people are you around? Are you around a lot of really angry, like, kind of still trauma, like, directed people? Like, is there a lot of sadness around you? Like, take note of this stuff. It doesn't make them bad people, but taking a second to actually sit there and think, like, wait a second, why do I feel mad right now? I actually have an exercise called zooming out about this whole thing, where you take a moment and you ask yourself, okay, where is the source of this anger or whatever chaotic energy? Like, I didn't bring this to this room. Where's it coming from? Is it him? Is it her? Oh, I think it's her. Okay. So if you take a moment and you just consciously decide, you know what? Let me just see if I can just turn off my empathy for that emotion just for a moment, where I don't need to feel what she's feeling, because now I've identified the root cause. I want to be a little bit sympathetic to it. I want to understand that she's going through that, but I don't necessarily want to be at that level, because I would like to help her, if she's open to it, come out of it. Very tough for me to help her come out of that if I'm empathetic to it in the moment. And I think that if you begin to, like, zoom out and kind of look at your situation like that, like, who has the vibe that I'm looking for? Who has the vibe that may be bringing this situation down? Guys, managers do this at work all the time. If they're worth their salt, they're trying to figure out who on the team could be the quote unquote rotten egg, or who in the team has the potential to uplift the whole room. So there's a lot of applications for this stuff. So I'm really glad that you touched on ownership. And I'm really glad you started to break it down, because I think a lot of people really do oversimplify that. Oh, if there's something going wrong up here and I don't really like the way I'm feeling, there must be something wrong with me. Nah, go a little bit easier on yourself. Look around yourself. What are you consuming? What's around you? Could be. I know you got something.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important. And I got so I the problem is I may have too many somethings, right? So I want to whittle it. I want to whittle it down. So I'll say two things. First and foremost, I don't want to be too judgmental here, brothers and sisters, and whoever is listening to this, because I am on this journey.
Mm.
What
As
a
are
lot of
we.
We
All
all
of
are.
us are.
Amen. Amen.
a lot of what I'm saying tonight is connection of a lot of things that I'm working on, a lot of things that I've been through, a lot of things that I've seen and discovered for myself by persevering through adversity, or more importantly, failures or things that have been lower periods of vibration in my time. Let's just in my life. Let's describe it that way. So it is not a hey, go do it. This is a there's hope. This is a oh man, you do have the key. Oh man, there is a way to handle whatever that is or whatever it is, because everything we're describing is how I would describe health. And it's why I do what I do, because I realize this is like the foundation of everything. So if you want to be better at business, you can change your vibration, and that is going to lead to success, because business is about how you connect with people, period, and the story, right? If you want to change your be better, let's stick with the business piece. You change your vibration, because let's say, for example, you're not doing the things that you need to do consistently to get you the results that you want to get. Well, you're probably in a particular state of mind. You're probably in on a particular vibration that's stopping that from taking place. Maybe changing your consumption, right? Maybe changing your environment, maybe making some of these shifts that we're talking about could be the breakthrough that you're looking for. And in fact, shoot, I'm gonna take my own, I'm taking this to the bank, y'all. I'm taking this for myself. So if you don't take it, man, I'm taking it. So I think that's one thing. And secondly, I think this also leads me to why I believe step one of 7 baby steps to health is really resetting yourself, resetting your gut, because it totally changes your vibration. And I don't know if you guys will agree to that or not.
1,000%, 1,000%. As somebody that has started the process, and like again, I'm glad you said that, could be that like we're all going on this journey, right? We're not speaking from a soapbox. It's not on some right. We're perfect at this, but we've probably started to process and try and apply and do all that stuff maybe more than maybe others, right? but, at the,
1,000, 1,000, 1,000.
but at the end of the day, right, we're all on the journey.
Sure.
We're all on the journey. So, you know, yeah, I kind of lost my train of thought talking about the journey.
And I think you were going to connect. I think you were going to connect the vibration and post maybe your experience.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like actually going through the process of cleaning out the gut, right? Solid food vacation, juice feast, really just paying attention to what we're consuming, what's coming out, the whole nine. But that process got me more connected, right, to myself and to understanding what my body needs. And again, that process that we go through, I think is just it's incredibly important.
Amen. Um, to piggyback off of both of those items, um, first of all, could be well put for always putting it out there that it's easy for us to have these conversations, and it's easy for people listening to think we know everything. Man, we're all students here too. We literally learn from each other. Like I literally get coached by Chris and Kobi, and like this is a round robin, an exchange of knowledge where we literally get together. And oftentimes when we're having these conversations, I'm sure this happens with you fellas as well, I literally have flashbacks to moments in time where I didn't necessarily handle the situation to the same level of consciousness or ability or efficiency as I would handle it today. And there's still situations in my current life that I continue to tweak and tinker with and improve upon. Like this is all stuff we're actively working on. So Kobi, thank you for setting that stage, and Chris, thank you for echoing it. When it comes to the shout out Tucker, what's up, bro? Had to do that one. When it comes to the solid food vacation and juice feast, I literally just got through with this. We were talking about this on the pregame, guys. It's an awesome experience. I think Kabi and I often have slightly different viewpoints on what the first step is. For me, mindset is how I entered into this. A lot of people enter into personal development, and actually, we've talked about a little bit of this. Everybody has a different gateway into figuring out and unlocking who you are and what your first step is. Some people, I think, especially men, tend to get into this route through physical exercise, like and actually figuring themselves out, going to the gym. Losing my voice here, excuse me. Going to the gym, getting a lot of that anger out, beginning to face yourself because your body is experiencing this emotion that you're unlocking, different types of body work, etc. I will say one thing I wholeheartedly agree on is if you are looking to reset how you feel, solid food vacation juice feast is an excellent way to do that, because not only does it focus on, and could be please cut me off if I reveal too much here. Not only does it focus on what you're consuming as far as stepping away from solid food and diving into juicing, it also focuses on other things, alcohol, weed, whatever else. Like, let's go ahead and take a moment to just stop whatever your current lifestyle is, and let's live what somebody through 15 years of experience, as he's begun to mention, focusing on the body, has come up with this idea of this, in his opinion, and what I think Chris and I can attest to at this point, and many, many others he's already taken through this. This is an excellent way to stop and reset your life. What do you do when your computer's messing up? You reboot it. You can go reboot yourself by doing this. Highly recommend it.
He literally calls it being able to kind of reset and just say, I need to give my body a little bit of a break. Think about this. If we've been beating up our body, literally beating it up, right? Like for years and years and years of our life, and we've never taken out just a few days to give it a little bit of a break in the digestion process and the things that it's, that you're consuming. If we don't do that, think of the work that your body has to do. One of the things that, and I'll let you jump in, Kobi, I just wanted to get this point out. The one thing that really pulled me in as we were starting this process is when you had mentioned to me, or we had talked about the fact that our body does is 80% of the work that the body is doing is going to breaking down our food, and it's only leaving 20% or whatever to do all of the rest of the things that our body is actually meant to do. And that light bulb came off. It's man, my body's really not operating at peak performance, and I've never allowed it to take a rest and actually start doing those things. And that's what pushed me over the hump of I'm really not being good to my body, so I need to pay attention to this stuff. And that was that catalyst. So Stu, you said personal development, mindset. I think I was there. And then once you get to that place also, I think then it's okay, well, what do I need to do for my body or for my health or whatever the case is? And then that's when this, reset of the gut is important.
Yeah, man. And to reconnect it back to the greater topic here, I think what I kind of want to point out here is that vibration piece, right? If we are attracting things around this and it enters things that we're consuming, etc., consider that maybe we take a minute to reassess all those things. That somewhere, it's kind of like hitting it with a big hammer. Somewhere, you're going to find that something click and some sort of solution comes into place, right? Rather than going with a harpoon effect, in a lot of ways. But yeah, I think consumption is a great key in terms of shifting this vibrational piece and getting us to wherever it is that you want to go.
Yeah, and as you're bringing it back to the main piece of communication and unity, when it comes to this juice feast, you are enabling, as Chris highlighted, the ability for your body to actually take care of itself and not spending all this time just trying to process burgers and mac and cheese and processed McDonald's and just garbage. And yeah, I said it, McDonald's. So when you
There
give
goes our
yourself
sponsorship.
when you give yourself the opportunity to allow your body to operate at that efficiency, all of a sudden, what Kobe's been alluding to, and Chris as well, is your gut can communicate with you. You are no longer like this severed head of thought where it's everything going on up here. Like, why is my life not the way I want it to be? It's like all of a sudden you begin to ground yourself. The more you do body work, the more you clean out your system. I really used to believe that it was mindset only. I genuinely thought that. That's how I got through a lot of shit. And the next level for me was deep tissue massages, working out knots, working out stuff, like actually exercising regularly, checking what I was eating. Slowly but surely, I found my way to this juice feast courtesy of Kobi. So there's so much going on. And when you're able to clean out your system, your gut can communicate with your head, your whole body is in much better synergy. You begin to make different decisions. As Kobi and we've all alluded to in previous episodes, you don't always make decisions with your head. I go over this with my clients a lot. It's not all up here. Some decisions and connections are made from the heart, especially those of great emotion, and especially romantic relationships, in my opinion. And then some decisions, there's too many logic and variables. We can't predict the future as humans. You got to make a gut choice. And what's a great way to do that? Get in touch with the gut. Allow that to communicate with you. So that's unity right there. Gut, heart, head, all of it, man. There's so much more.
Human biophotons.
I'm still
getting this all together. Yeah, man. It's just like energy, just connection all across the board, man. But I hope everybody got something out of the day, whether it's one thing, like whether it uplifted you, whether it got you to a place where you're just like, you know what, I'm going to do this one thing, or I'm going to go and take action. I think that hopefully you listen to this and pull something from that. And if you got something for us too, I would love to hear from people. Shoot, I got stuff I'm working on. I got stuff I'm trying to get better at. So reach out to us. Let us know, man. I want some questions. All right, I'm saying I want some questions from anybody that sees this. What resonated with you today, and what do you want to see more of from us? And also questions, advice for us in general. I think that'll be dope.
We love it. We love the feedback. We want the engagement. We do this so that we can continue to build with you, continue to give you the knowledge, the insight, the conversations, the perspectives that you need to really start to design your life. If your environment is not up to standard or where you want it to be, right? Let us supplement that for a little bit here on Wednesday night.
Last thing real quick. So you mentioned you used to think it was mindset only. And I think it's really interesting because the image I saw in my head was like a bunch of pistons, if you will, like, engine pistons or whatever. I don't know too much about cars or anything, but like that's what I got going. Okay. And I was thinking like that's like just having like one or two pistons firing, right? When you could have all of them firing and opened up. Now, maybe you start with one pistol or piston, whatever it is, firing, right? But then that helps gets the others going. You see what I'm saying? So I think it's, you may stumble into it, you may fall into it, you may whatever, however you got there is fine. But when you're hearing this now you might know that, hey, listen, this is another step I could take, and I've already been doing some of these other things, but this is another step I could take as well.
Excellent, bro. Excellent analogy. Because let's say you got the V8, you got 8 pistons in there. If you've been focusing on hitting the gym and just getting your body like looking aesthetically great, maybe you've nailed one piston. Maybe you've got one going there. If you've been focusing on mindset, like how you talk to yourself, how you really like what's going on up here, you got another one.
Or you got money.
You got money. Excellent piston to have rocking in all cylinders, right? We all want it. And what's a great way to attract that? Have a lot of the other pieces going on so you can actually not just, I think, the thing that comes to mind here is, you are what you attract, or like, the more you work on yourself, the more you attract. Like, guys, don't just focus on one piston here. Like, build yourself a community or a board of advisors, as we like to say here on The Good Life, that can help you get all those pistons firing. We each have a special focus. Some of us are holistic. Some of us have like very precise things we work on, and we're also in between on that spectrum. It's one of the nice things about how we set up shop here. So we're here, more than 3 pistons, trying to help you guys out, get them all running smooth.
See what you did there.
So We have to end on that gem because that was a gem, Stu. That was it. That was it, man. So for everybody that's been listening, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, hit us up. We want to have conversation. We want to help you through. We want to engage. You know where to find us on all these platforms. We got some special stuff coming up moving forward. I don't even think I put it up there, but we're starting to do. There it is. There's a bit.ly link if you're watching us on Facebook, or I guess somebody type it in. Stu, type it in the Instagram.
Oh yeah, good call.
Maybe we can just pin it in there really quick. bit.ly/email TGL, the good life. That gets us on, or that if you go to that website, it's going to get you onto our email list. We got some exciting stuff coming up that we're doing here for the good life, moving into 2022 to really give you more of this information that could absolutely change your life. So we want to make sure that you have access to us, and from there, right, start to design this life, ladies and gentlemen. So until next week, we'll be out. Keep living the good life. We'll see you guys later. Take care.
Take care,
Peace
guys.
out.